declarations of interest. So item 3, questions from the public. We have received, I just realised, I've trotted on and I'm on questions from the public, and I haven't actually done the Lord Mayor's announcement. So, yeah, we have. I should have done that as part of telling you about the toilets. But anyway, so we'll briefly do this because we have such a packed agenda this evening. So we last met at the end of November, and one of the things that comes for the civic team into December is lots of stuff related to Christmas and other religious festivals. So it was fantastic to attend many carol services, to attend Hanukkah, and I think my wife counted that in total I sung "O Come All Ye Faithful" 15 times, something perhaps you only do if you're Lord Mayor. On Christmas Day itself, we were able to attend the open Christmas event at St Andrew's Hall. For those that don't know, that's an amazing event put on by so many volunteers to make sure that everyone on Christmas Day who wants to go along there can get fed and have some company and warmth and entertainment. And it was hugely gratifying to be able to thank the volunteers and also meet with those people who'd come along for their lunch and to be accompanied by the whole civic team. In fact, we had the Sheriff, Sheriff's Consort, Lady Mayoress and Deputy Lord Mayor. Most recently, on Friday of last week, it was Holocaust Memorial Day, which gave the opportunity for us to come together to reflect on the Holocaust and subsequent genocides and affirm our position that we must never allow these things to happen again. So now, Lord Mayor's announcement's over, I can move on to item 3, which is questions from the public. We've received 5 public questions. The first is from Ms. Sophia Wally. Ms. Wally, would you please ask your question?
It's actually pronounced Whaley. Several members of your team said that you wanted to know how it was pronounced. That's how it's pronounced.
Really, thank you very much. That didn't quite make it to me in terms of the pronunciation.
So the idea of forming links with other communities through twinning was first proposed after World War II as a way of spreading understanding of different cultures, with the ultimate aim of lessening the risk of future world conflict. Twinning is an important civic tool, especially in our fine city of Norwich, a city of sanctuary. It provides an opportunity to show solidarity and common humanity with citizens in those other places that we twin with. Norwich already has an existing relationship with Bethlehem in Palestine through the work of the John Aves Education Project, which awards scholarships to young people from the Daysha Palestinian refugee camp in Bethlehem to study for an undergraduate degree at their local universities. The project was established in memory of Reverend Canon Dr. John Aves, who served, amongst other places, at St Peter Mancroft across the road from here, after he died in Bethlehem, in recognition of the admiration and love for the people of Daysha camp that he had, the people's commitment to education as the future for their children. Incidentally, this refugee camp, Daysha, was established in 1949 as what was supposed to be temporary refuge for 3,400 Palestinians from 45 villages west of Jerusalem and Hebron who were forced to flee violence after the end of the British mandate in Palestine. So I'm just setting that as context for the responsibility this country has to the current horrendous genocide that's taking place.
Could I please ask you to make sure you read the question as submitted, though, please?
Okay. In light of that, will Norwich City Council twin Norwich with a Palestinian city?
Yes, most of that preamble wasn't actually in the question as it was presented to me. That was kind of a speech which was very interesting to listen to as context. However, this is absolutely not the time to rush into such an arrangement. Current events in Israel and Gaza are tragic, and many Norwich residents are very concerned about the ongoing situation, while everyone wants to see an end to violence. Our key priority remains to ensure that the city is welcoming and that all residents feel safe. We support calls for a political and peaceful settlement of the conflict, and I'm sure we can all agree that the death of innocent civilians must stop and international law must be upheld. A route to lasting peace must ensure the safety and security of Palestinians and Israelis. When we twin with cities, it usually stems from an existing and ongoing relationship between the two cities and with clear links within the city. Twinning should not be a priority for us at this time. We should ensure our primary responsibility is to promote community cohesion and to foster good relations in the city between all faiths and communities, ensuring we remain an inclusive, respectful, tolerant and accepting place for everyone.
Thank you. Ms Whaley, you're allowed one supplementary question. I've already afforded you significant licence to deviate from your submitted question, which for reference for everyone who sat in the chamber today was simply, will Norwich City Council twin Norwich with a Palestinian city? Building on your originally submitted question, do you have a supplementary question in response to Councillor Stollard's answer?
I do. So in light that there aren't any current plans to twin Norwich with a Palestinian city, what steps instead is Norwich City Council actively taking now, or what steps does the council pledge to make to end their tacit support for the genocide of Palestinians, for example, by using and working with companies who fund arms and technology that are currently killing Palestinians?
Stop you there. The question specifically needs to relate to twinning and expanding on the answer you had in relation to twinning.
It was because there aren't any current plans, so are there any other alternative plans to show solidarity in the same way that twinning might do?
Thank you. Councillor Stoddard.
I do not accept that there is tacit support from this council or this administration for either party in the current conflict. I absolutely reject that. And I think it's really dangerous and divisive to be making statements like that. If this council,
you did light up the town hall, the city hall in the colours of the Israeli
Ms Whaley,
flag.
this is not a discussion opportunity. Councillor Stoddard is responding to your supplementary question. He will be heard and only he will be heard.
If this council is responsible for anything, it's community cohesion and ensuring that there are not divisive arguments taking place within the city, which is what we are trying to do and what we're doing with our new initiative, Bringing Faiths Together. I think it's a little bit difficult if you're referring to us lighting up City Hall in the wake of a terrorist attack in Israel. You seem to be conflating things which oughtn't to be conflated. A terrorist attack of the type that we saw against the population of a sovereign state by terrorists, I think anyone who does not find that disgusting and would not want to show human compassion, not a political statement, but human compassion, I think they're very, very sad people.
Thank you. Meeting that is conducted in public, but there is no right for members of the public to make statements during the meeting. So I'm now going to move on to question 2. The second question is from Mr. James Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins, would you please ask your question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Several months ago, the Cabinet Member for Communities and Social Inclusion said that, in response to a question from Councillor Lubbock, a review of overflow and nuisance parking from the Eaton Park charge was due to be completed shortly, but that preliminary findings showed that no major incidents had been reported to the Council. Assuming this review has now been completed, what were its findings? Was this the case?
Thank you. Councillor Giles, would you please give your reply?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about the work taking place at Eaton Park. Contrary to suggestions made that the introduction of car park charging at Eaton Park would deter usage, income received at the end of Q3 was £93,550, already exceeding the annual income target of £85,000. Car park income from Eaton Park, set at an affordable rate for users, is enabling Eaton Park to continue to thrive in partnership with the Friends Group. Tennis courts have been resurfaced with painting to take place in the spring. In response to strong interest from the Friends Group, we will be installing the Thomas Brown Memorial sculptures previously located on Hay Hill in the park to the grass area south of the play area. A public consultation on an upgraded play area design to destination standard will soon be commencing. Building on the deep aeration of the football pitches last year, we have just successfully bid for £333,000 of Greater Norwich Growth Board funding to upgrade all 6 of the changing rooms in the rotunda so they remain FA compliant. The scheme will see solar panels and a heat pump installed to the rotunda. 10 new bicycle racks and new signage will also be installed. The City Council is match funding £80,000 in capital funding, and I would like to thank Friends of Eaton Park and Eaton Park Community Centre Association for their £500 contributions. The scheme is in the Football Foundation's Norwich Football Facilities Plan, and £187,000 of Football Foundation match funding is subject to successful planning permission. I would like to congratulate Friends of Eaton Park on Eaton Park not only retaining its green flag last summer, but also being awarded green flag heritage status for the first time.
Councillor Giles, much as I love to hear about Eaton Park, because it is the jewel in our park, will you be getting to a point where you talk about parking?
I will, and I think this answer illustrates what the car parking income at the park is enabling us to deliver at the park. The green flag status was followed up in the autumn with a TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence. With regard to the impact of the car parking charges on displacement, a high-level review of displaced parking around Eaton Park was carried out after the introduction of parking charges at the park. The only complaint we have received since then relates to parking on the verge of South Park Avenue at Customs Court Sheltered Housing. Unfortunately, there is no enforcement action that we can take as there are no parking restrictions at this location. Enforcement of parking restrictions on the highway are also enforceable on the pavement/verge. There is currently no legislation that covers parking on pavements where no parking orders are in place. During this review, the County Council were consulted, along with our own parking team. We also completed a project closure report and lessons learned exercise as part of the project governance, and displaced parking was not identified as an issue. Norwich City Council can only continue to invest in high-quality facilities in Eaton Park through generating income. I would encourage people to work constructively, cross-party, with the Friends of Eaton Park. Eaton Park is a much-loved open space, and volunteers and residents don't want to see the park being torn down. The investment I have set out illustrates this administration's ongoing commitment to high-quality and high-value parks and open spaces in Norwich.
Thank you. Mr. Hawkins, you allowed one supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor, for eventually getting around to answering my question. I would like to, firstly, I don't think anyone's talking Eaton Park down, but I would like to further question how much of an emphasis he and the administration placed on making sure that the parking review actually reflected the reality of the situation. With the exception of your original response to Councillor Lubbock's question, I've not seen or heard of any publicisation of the review among the public, nor any calls for evidence from local residents who would of course be best placed to observe it. So I would just like to ask him, where did he advertise this review in the public sphere, and how many submissions from the public were received?
Councillor Giles, would you please give your reply?
As I've said, only one complaint has been received in relation to displaced parking following the introduction of car park charging at Eaton Park. And unfortunately, it was not possible to take enforcement action in that location. Thank you.
Thank you. So the third question is from Mr. Mark Walker. Mr. Walker, would you please ask your question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The UK aerospace industry is one of the jewels in the crown of the UK economy. Support by this City Council through investment in the Aviation Academy at Norwich Airport has enhanced the capacity of the airport and provided local students the opportunity to secure well-paid, unionised and skilled work within this developing city industry. The positive and important work of my trade union, Unite the Union, in organising amongst workers in the local aviation economy within the city and their members report going for growth beyond 2022, which sets out the steps the government must take to deliver a greener, sustainable and more self-reliant future for UK workers and the economy, helps further underline the significance of this industry. Given this, will the leader commit to write to government and reiterate the need to support our local aviation industry and the positive impact that the Aviation Academy has made to Norwich since opening?
Councillor Stannard, would you please give your response?
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Walker, for your question. I'm very pleased to endorse the importance of the local aviation industry and the positive impact that the Aviation Academy has made to Norwich. Norwich Airport acts as a catalyst for the local and regional economy, not only by providing good airline connections across the UK, Europe and to an international hub, but also as a major employment centre in its own right. It is estimated that the airport and the academy support 1,240 jobs in the local economy and contribute approximately £70 million to the regional economy. By 2045, it is estimated that the airport will contribute £160 million to regional GVE, that's gross value added, through direct, indirect and induced employment. This is incredibly significant for the local and regional economy and the local jobs market. The Aviation Academy has proved vital in providing local students the opportunity to secure well-paid, unionised and skilled work, good jobs which are really important to the city's future and the future of our young people. This administration's support for the airport is distinct from that of the Green Party opposite, who are no friends of the aviation industry and the airport, as we know. This is despite the recent news that the world's first pleasure flight in a fully electric aircraft took off from Norwich Airport last year, with Saxton Air offering the public the chance to fly in a battery-operated plane. This comes with much-needed advancements in the aviation industry and emerging new technologies such as hydrogen and electrification. The crucial importance of the aircraft industry moving away as part of a just, sustainable and worker-friendly transition from carbon-based propulsion to renewable energy so that the industry plays its vital role in tackling the climate emergency. We need to protect and ensure the future sustainability of the airport and local aviation industry, and I endorse the report Going for Growth, written and produced by Unite members working in the industry, which sets out the steps the government must take to deliver a greener, sustainable and more self-reliant future for UK workers, and the need to ensure the aviation industry is a full part of this. So in direct answer to your question, Mr. Walker, I would be very pleased to write to the government to stress the vital importance of the industry and the positive impact of the Aviation Academy for this city since opening.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, you're allowed one supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question?
No supplementary question, thank you.
Thank you. The fourth question is from Ms. Sally Reynolds. Ms. Reynolds, would you please ask your question?
Thank you. Residents in Norwich are facing long delays in arranging repairs to social housing and communal areas in the city, fixing street lights, which has been a particular issue in Mancroft, where the lack of lighting has been made certain parts of the ward unsafe, which has also brought antisocial behaviour issues. How long should a resident expect to wait for repairs to be completed?
Councillor Giles, would you please give your reply?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for the question. In order to improve street lighting, the council is in the process of investing £500,000 into the district lighting network to upgrade 1,600 lights to LED fittings. Installation will take place over the next 18 months. Once installed, this will reduce electricity costs and consumption-based carbon emissions by more than 50%, and also significantly reduce repairs and maintenance, leading to a more reliable and effective street lighting network. The responsibility for public lighting in the city is shared between the City Council and the County Council. Street lighting and the associated repairs is generally owned and maintained by the County Council, with lighting on City Council public buildings, in green spaces and on council housing land maintained by the City Council. There are currently a small number of outstanding repairs in Mancroft Ward that were reported in December. These are currently being assessed to prioritise replacement of the existing equipment. We haven't received any reports to date that these have led to an increase in antisocial behaviour, however I understand the importance of rectifying these. Lighting upgrades will also include replacement of some columns and the renewal of some power supply equipment which has previously delayed repairs. The Council is also working to streamline the reporting process to make it easier for residents to identify lighting that is managed by the City Council and to enable faults to be reported online and for them to be sent directly to its maintenance contractor. Thank you for the question.
Ms Reynolds, you're allowed one supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. How long do you have to wait?
Thank you. Councillor Giles, would you please give your reply?
I will make inquiries about the service standard for maintenance for repair of our streetlights that we own and get back to you with a response via Democratic Services.
Thank you. The fifth question is from Ms Lucy Allen on behalf of the Mile Cross Projects and Events Group. Ms Allen, would you please ask your question?
My question is in relation to the engagement on Norwich North Levelling Up Fund bid at Sloverton Park on Drayton Road. And it's what steps did Norwich City Council take to consult the Mile Cross community in relation to the original bid submitted, and how can the community be reassured that their views will be taken into account moving forward?
Councillor Giles, could you please give your reply?
The original Norwich North Levelling Up bid, submitted in the summer of 2022, was informed by our long-standing programme of engagement with residents, community groups, business and local anchor institutions. It promotes good community relations, principally by enhancing amenities and opportunity in the Mile Cross ward. Our focus on improved facilities will draw in groups from all across the community to contribute to and benefit from the investment of just under £10 million, giving many local clubs and community groups a real sense of ownership of these improved community assets. In addition, the collaborative manner in which the bid has been developed, drawing on engagement from across our communities, has promoted positive community relations and drawn key partners together in pursuit of improved outcomes for Norwich and Mile Cross. This area will particularly benefit from improved access to sports, safer open spaces, volunteering opportunities and leisure facilities to promote improved health and well-being, as well as improved access to active travel routes into the city centre and its range of learning and employment opportunities. Our bid strengthens integration and widens participation across the local community by bringing many local clubs and community groups together to share much improved public space that will be a source of great local pride. In terms of consultation with communities, Norwich City Council used community conversation data collected by the Neighbourhoods and Community Enabling Team to give a broad range of local residents' views to help develop the application. Officers also consulted with the following stakeholders: Norwich Flyers, Park Run, Norfolk Wildlife Trust, the Norfolk Football Association, the Football Foundation and British Cycling. The Town Deals Board was also involved. At the time of the original bid, there was no Friends of Slowbottom Park group, so we were not able to consult with them. However, now that the group has been established, the Council will consult and engage with the new Friends group, the local community and the groups listed above to help strengthen our project proposals during the final design and implementation phase as the project progresses. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Allen, you're allowed one supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. So, will the council commit to a co-production approach with the Mile Cross community through Mile Cross Projects and Events Group and other local organisations at the design stage, and be prepared to change the original plan if the community feels, for example, that the nominated 3G pitch is inappropriate in an environmentally sensitive location and part of a green corridor?
Councillor Giles, would you please give your reply?
Thank you. Yes, in terms of co-production during the final design and implementation phase. In terms of amendments to the original bid, I'm not sure that I can commit to amending that. I'm not sure if that's permissible under the government's terms of providing the awarding the funding to us. In terms of the 3G pitch, this was something that was in the Football Foundation's football facilities programme for Norwich. It was identified when we did the playing pitches strategy 18 months ago that there were significant challenges on capacity for football pitches in the city, and that 3G pitches would enable much increased capacity than the current grass pitches. In terms of the environmental impact, I have got an assessment of that, and I can send that to you via Democratic Services.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all the members of the public who've come and asked your questions this evening. You're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or equally you're welcome to leave now if you wish. So we move on to the next item, petitions. There have been no petitions received for this meeting. Item 4, minutes. I call upon Councillor Stollard to move the minutes of the meetings held on the 28th of November 2023 and the 10th of January 2024.
Formally proposed, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Galvin to second the minutes.
Seconded.
Thank you. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Please remember the ICJ ruling on Friday when you go to next year's Holocaust Memorial Day. And the same is happening in Gaza.
Members of the I did personally query one of the items on the from the minutes from the 10th of January, where apparently we can't record meeting length as anything less than 5 minutes. The meeting was 3 minutes, but the minutes say 5. But we let that one go. So item 5, we have questions to Cabinet members. There are 29 questions from members of the Council to Cabinet members, of which notice has been given in accordance with the provisions of Part 3 of the Constitution. A copy will be available on the Council's website. Members who have asked questions are permitted to put a supplementary question to the Cabinet member. Question 1. Councillor Driver, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Lord Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jules, for your reply. You mentioned about complex needs of this client group. Can you comment on how approach addresses that in more detail, please?
Councillor Jones, would you give a reply, please?
Thank you, Councillor Driver, for your supplementary. Yes, I think it's really important to say that our approach in addressing homelessness and rough sleeping in this city is very much a partnership approach, because it's a client group with such complex issues that can affect this. And I'd like to highlight some of the really good work that's done in partnership, particularly with St Martin's. The Somewhere Safer to Stay Hub, I think, really is one of the really important starting points of that. And I hope projects like that can receive wider political support in future. We've got projects like Webster Court coming forward, and it's about looking at the diversity of needs and actually that one size doesn't fit all. And I think we've got some really constructive, creative approaches. We've got Pathways, which is bringing together a multi-agency approach, and we're always looking for new opportunities and new ways to creatively provide support, because there is such a diversity of need, and we really need to be agile in how we respond to that.
Thank you. Councillor Susan's question 2. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. And thank you also, Councillor Jones. Would you be able to give us more details of the innovative design of these properties which will have us such significant benefits to our residents, please?
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I think the new properties that both up, one of the things to say is that we are continuing to take really positive steps in how we address fuel poverty. The introduction of triple glazing and air source heat pumps into our previous fabric first approach, and we're now looking to do some work around exploring how that impacts on energy consumption, so how we take those design features forward. And we're continuing to look and build on that. I think there's some really interesting little features that I picked up that I was really felt was really positive about, just understanding the environment that those houses sit in as well. Looking at access for things like hedgehogs, who actually we're so short of, and they are protecting them is so important. and their access around the site is being promoted. Things like that. The diversity of how we've addressed different issues on that site, I think, is really important. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Sands, question 3. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Giles, for your reply. Could you please expand on what steps we are taking with partnership organisations in respect to malnutrition and deprivation?
Thank you. Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Mike. These reports from West Earlham were truly horrifying. It is a reflection of how far this country has regressed under 14 years of Conservative governments that we are seeing the return of child malnutrition and Victorian diseases. Following the reports from West Earlham and a direct approach from the head teacher, an initial meeting was set up with City Council officers across departments to find out what could be done to help the families in the area that needed such critical support. Following that meeting, it was agreed by the Norwich Health and Wellbeing Partnership, chaired by Councillor Beth Jones, that the Wellness on Wheels bus would be used to visit the school to provide direct help. We are working collaboratively with Children's Services, Primary Care and all other relevant agencies to deliver a coordinated response. Partners attending on the bus will include health professionals, VCSE partners, housing officers and income officers. If the visit proves successful in West Earlham, other schools in Rita communities will be contacted to see if similar interventions would prove valuable. Combating food poverty is a key work stream of the Norwich Health and Wellbeing Partnership, and the details of work plans will be set out in due course. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 4, and continue.
Sorry, can I just... I'm very aware that there's a lot of members of the public sitting outside. Obviously, quite a few people have now left, having asked public questions.
So is this a point of order? I'm just trying to work out how it relates to members' questions.
Well, I was wondering if members of the public who are in the public gallery now can be let in to watch the meeting from in here, because they're all waiting outside, I think.
No, we're not going to disrupt the meeting, so we're continuing as is. So, question 4, Councillor Carrington, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your response. Whilst I know we are all disappointed to lose properties through the right to buy, could you expand on how these receipts are spent to benefit residents given the financial challenges which come with building at this time?
Councillor Jones.
Thank you for the supplementary. Yes, I'm always disappointed with every property we lose through right to buy, because that is housing for this city. But with those receipts, we make sure we build as many properties as we can within the financial constraints that come with how those are spent. But also we look creatively to ensure that we do not hand those back to the government wherever possible. So that's working with registered providers. Any opportunity to provide affordable accommodation in the city is really crucial. We've got a constructive partnership going on with Allwell, where we can free up sites and hope that they will be able to build as well. So every opportunity needs to be explored to make sure that money isn't lost, because that comes from our residents' housing, this city's housing, and it needs to be reinvested back in the city in any way possible.
Thank you. Question 5, Councillor Vaughan Thomas, do you have a supplementary question?
No supplementary, thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Question 6, Councillor Pick, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your reply. In relation to tackling homelessness, is there any other further steps we could take, in your opinion?
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you for the supplementary. As I've already said, we're always looking for new ways that we can provide support. And I think one of the really crucial areas that we need to be exploring at the moment is the increasing number of asylum seekers who, as their claims are being processed, are needing to find accommodation, needing to be supported. I was updated today on the project we've got going on, working with St Martin's, where making a sort of when we've got worst case scenario sort of accommodation available there for people, that make sure that no one has to sleep rough. That's the aim for us. So we need to continue to promote the partnership working with people like St Martin's to continue to explore every option we've got. And really pleased that we're going to be having a specialist worker as well, working with the asylum seekers around accommodation as well.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Vivian Thomas, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Lord Mayor. I am proud to be a Labour Party councillor and have always believed in the difference that cooperative ways of working through collective power to purchasing can make of public services. The advent of Big Switch and Save, pioneered by this council nearly a decade ago, is a good example of this and how it has been expanded across Norfolk, including providing solar panels. Can the Cabinet Member for Climate Change comment on progress with the latest sign-ups for both the Solar Together and Switch and Save auctions which completed last year? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Hampton, would you like to give your reply, please?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Thomas. I believe a written response on the sign-ups for the Solar Together and Switch and Save auctions are in the pack already, but if there's anything else on that you want to know, please do get in touch and I'll get back to you.
Thank you. Question 8, Councillor Huntley, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Lord Mayor, I do. Thank you for your response, Councillor Jones. Could you perhaps explain further the potential features of the new housing stock being proposed for the Marlcross Depot development sites, please?
Councillor Jones.
Thank you for the supplementary. I think it's important to say that the scheme will already has a design which is orientated to maximise solar energy gain from PV panels, and we'll be looking to bring forward many of the other things we've used around air source heat pumps and other things such as triple glazing that I've always previously mentioned about Bowthorpe. The scheme will also have a robust sustainable drainage strategy that's influenced by the orientation and land site layout. And we're also looking, alongside the design of the building themselves, the social benefits of this scheme also in terms of the wider community and the work that's going alongside that within local schools around sustainability. So it's both the houses themselves, but the benefits that us working there can bring to the wider community as well. But I'm really excited that we're going to be bringing this scheme forward soon, and I think it will have an amazing benefit for the people that live there.
Question 9, Councillor Padder, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kidman, for your response. I'm pleased to see the regeneration and investment we're bringing into the city and how it can be used to enhance and expand our cultural offer. The Halls project, the Castle Keep and other actions are all real wins. I'm particularly keen that access to culture benefits everyone in our community, not just those with deep pockets. Can you give your opinion on how the new Norwich Creative City Compact Survey will assist in identifying the gaps?
Thanks. Thank you. Councillor Kidman, can you please give your reply?
Thank you, Councillor Padder, for your question. I'm passionate about every citizen in our city being able to fully take part and participate in culture in our city. You'll be pleased to know that the Norwich Creative City Compact has been surveying residents both online and face-to-face in Norwich to discover if they attend any of Norwich's venues, festivals or events, if there are any barriers to attending, and what role, if any, arts and culture has in the identity of Norwich. From this, people's views will be used to help identify gaps in arts and culture in Norwich, improve accessibility and coordination, and secure much needed and vital additional funding. Survey's been live for some time. The deadline is tomorrow. So whether you attend cultural venues or not, whether you have creative interests or not, please do go online, and if you haven't already, and type in Norwich City Council Culture Survey to share your views. Nearing completion also is the rebirth of Norwich Castle Museum, transformed by a 5-year programme that has reinstalled missing floors and added the British Museum's first medieval galleries outside London. This integral part of Norwich's culture and heritage is already creating a buzz, and Norwich is in the national press this week as one of the most exciting cities to visit. This Labour-led City Council will build on this platform and further protect, promote and expand our vital cultural offer within our fine city to benefit of all residents. In the meantime, thank you for your question and your enthusiasm.
Question 10, Councillor Maguire, do you have a supplementary question?
No, Lord Mayor, there are enough questions tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maguire. Question 11, Councillor Prinsley, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for your written response, Councillor Giles. I know from my short space of time as a councillor that the difference the council tax reduction scheme makes is profound to our poorest residents. News that the government plans to migrate housing benefit claims to universal credit is worrying. In your opinion, what's the key ask to the government we need to make in order to eliminate the very need itself for such discretionary benefits?
Councillor Giles, will you please give your reply?
Thank you, Councillor Prinsley. It's really the sort of $1 million question, really, and it's not an easy answer to it. The root causes of poverty are clearly numerous and complex in nature and can only be addressed through multiple means, some of which will be highlighted through motions later on the agenda this evening. If I had to identify one ask of the government, and I could have many, it would be to match Labour's commitment to legislate for a real living wage, providing dignity in work and ensuring people have sufficient income to pay for their basic needs.
Thank you. Question 12, Councillor Catt, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your answer. As you specifically mentioned my contact with the Executive Director of Housing and Community Safety, I was specifically told that the NCSL as an organisation had a difficult 18 months and is not structured in a way that could cope with the implementation of a fully resident demand-led repair service. That does conflict with your answer. But I've also repeatedly raised concerns about the housing reporting system using NEC is inaccessible. It puts off many residents from using the online service. Blocking it behind a login screen again excludes a lot of people, and that puts additional pressure on our customer contact team with additional calls. Can you confirm that you'll be considering tools such as MainTech and other tools when you progress moving to a scheduling system?
Councillor Jones, would you please give your reply?
Thank you very much for the supplementary. We were in a work in progress with NCSL, and we were very clear that there was going to be sort of a 3-year process around that. In terms of the scheduling and things like that, there's an awful lot of work going on behind the scenes, and we're going to be exploring every option to make sure going forward we are the most responsive we can be to our residents. And I think we both share the same ambitions around that. And I think we're on a journey, and we're not there yet, but it is a journey. I'm committed to getting to the right outcome, which is the best service for our residents. But we've got a way to go, but we're committed to it.
Thank you. Question 13, Councillor Galvin, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, yes I do. Thank you very much for the answer, Councillor Jones. The Household Support Fund that you mentioned in your answer is ending quite soon this year, as you know. Obviously we'd like it to continue, but it probably won't. What will be in place to replace that element?
Thank you. Councillor Jones, would you give your reply, please?
I am not 100% sure with the current government and the current funding situation for things. So many things are so short term, and actually I think ultimately the way to change this actually is to change government. To be honest, it's the only way we're going to really be supporting the right people. I will get back to you with some further details, and I'd be keen to discuss it with you further outside of this meeting. It'd be really helpful to have that conversation. Thank you.
Question 14, Councillor Young, do you have a supplementary question?
Hi, yes I do. Thank you, Councillor Kendrick, for your response. And I was just wondering if you were able to update us on the exciting plans you have so far.
Well, as I said in the answer, we we have got a group in to actually look at the question of further improving City Hall and actually letting it out. In fact, only I think last week I met the Artists and Makers Collective with two of my fellow cabinet members, and we are beginning there to make some constructive suggestions, and they've promised to come back with the business plan, so we will actually progress this matter in obviously consultation with many groups within Norwich. And we have, as I say, got an outside consultant now to help us in this important work.
Thank you. Question 15. Councillor Hogan, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Fulton McAllister for the response. I'd just like to clarify quickly that Bristol City Council has adopted and will start using its new local plan, including a new policy on advertising that tightens criteria around amenity and public safety, and that makes it a lot more difficult for new digital billboards to go up in Bristol. It's great to hear you're open to look at this as part of the upcoming review of Norwich's development management policies. Now, I understand that Ring councillors have been asking for a review of the development management policies since the pandemic. Could you please clarify what the time frame is within which this long-promised review will take place? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hoegner. So ultimately, the timescale is sort of dependent on the government. We are waiting for the government to publish their final guidelines on that, and once they are finally published along with the design codes, we will be running those consultations in tandem rather than multiple consultations at various different points. Ultimately, this is a niche area, and therefore it's best to try to maintain public engagement to run those niche consultations at a similar point. That's not to do down those consultations, but is the reality that we're working with in terms of engagement from the public on these.
Question 16, Councillor Champion, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Lord Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Jones, for your response. And it's reassuring that there's been other questions about homelessness this evening, because there are many questions which need to be asked. Given that this council prides itself on the collaborative nature and a collaborative approach with partners, and that you're continuing to explore and improve services, how does this council plan to provide additional shelter to the homeless people of Norwich so that there is provision 7 days a week throughout the winter months? As present, the provision is closed on Thursdays.
Councillor Jones.
So the winter night shelter is kind of the last resort. We look to meet those needs where we can with other provisions, because actually it's about providing the long-term support to get people off the streets. So that's the crucial stuff, things like the Safe to Stay hub can get people there. Those are really important. It's having that wraparound support that means that it's not just one night off the streets, it's long-term, we're getting people off the streets. So that's why we're continuing to work with partners to invest in things like Webster Court coming forward, those longer-term options, housing first, availability, things like that. We've got to have something that is more than one night. It's got to be homes rather than just a bed. So we will continue to explore every opportunity to build those wherever we can.
Question 17 is Councillor Haynes has sent her apologies. There will be no supplementary question. Question 18, Councillor Davis, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your response. Can councillors have the contact details for the Clerk of Works to submit photographic evidence of works listed as completed that have not been completed, please?
Councillor Jones.
I think they would normally go through Civica, but if those were submitted to them for attention, the Clerk of Works, I think would probably be appropriate. But I will have a discussion with the housing team about if there is a more appropriate way to gather those and what would be the best way forward, and get back to you shortly.
Question 19, Councillor Oliver, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Lord Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hanson, for your response. And I appreciate that the Benjamin Foundation were offered the facility of the peppercorn rent, but only in the short term. And would you agree that it's a big loss to the city and its residents that the environmental, educational
educational and social aspects, this unique and award-winning project cannot be supported in the long term within the City Council boundaries.
Councillor Hampton, would you give your reply, please?
Thank you for your questions, Councillor Oliver. I fully recognise what social value they did provide. Along with yourself, me and Councillor Kendrick also went on a site visit there to have some of those benefits and educational opportunities explained as well. So support what they were doing, and my understanding is they will be continuing to offer some of those services from other locations. As the answer reflects, our relationship was with the former tenant who had sublet to the Benjamin Foundation. And we weren't party to those terms. The gap between the market rent of that space compared to what realistically the value of the social value and what we could give them to bridge that gap and offer further support, it was too large for that just to be the solve to this. We would always look to support and encourage organisations as we would others who kind of share aims and benefits with us. But that has to be proportionate, and that has to be, as I say, alongside the bigger picture of the services we offer in that area and other organisations we might want to be working with. But we wish them the best with however they approach delivering these services next, and if there is a way we can support, as I say, in that proportionate manner, we will do.
Thank you. Question 20, Councillor Stoodley, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I do. Thank you for the answer, Councillor Fulton McAllister, and welcome to the role on Cabinet that includes regulatory services. This is a step in the right direction. I look forward to seeing the data. And a step in the right direction following significant pressure from the committee and from me. However, recent evidence suggests it's not enough, and the public cannot currently feel safe under these arrangements. Back in December 2022, Chief Inspector Ed Brown from Norfolk Police addressed the licensing committee and agreed that taxis unable to operate efficiently in the late night zone was contributing to a rise in ASB, antisocial behaviour, and crime. Will the Cabinet member agree with me that more work needs to be done in this area to regain full control of taxi and private hire licensing in our city, and that additional resources for our excellent but overstretched licensing team is necessary? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton McAllister, would you give your reply, please?
Thank you, Councillor Stoodley. So I agree that we need to be ensuring the teams have more capacity to deal with these matters. But we do need to be clear on this. Ultimately, you have been chair of licensing committee for 4 years. Any implied failure to deal with this must sit at your door also. Ultimately, this is because either as chair you were too weak to pursue this, or you had not bothered to do so. Ultimately, the people of Norwich need to see this for what it is, which is a thinly veiled attack on the Labour Party, because you were not reselected in May. Ultimately, time and time again, you have shirked responsibility.
Councillor Fulton McAllister,
you have shirked responsibility for your own inability
Councillor Fulton
to
McAllister,
deliver
you will
results.
be quiet now, please. I believe your answer stretched beyond that's acceptable into the realms of an ad hominem attack. And also, for your reference, when the Lord Mayor asked you to be quiet, you are quiet.
In deference to you, Lord Mayor, I'm sorry.
Thank you. No doubt this, I'll give some advice now. When we get to item, I believe, 7 on the agenda, I will expect a fair and moderate discussion. Question 21. Councillor Everett, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I do. Thank you very much for your response, Councillor Jones. The question doesn't specifically reference affordability as such, so I'm surprised by such a specific answer. Can the Cabinet member confirm that residents with housing debt, either council or private, are not being penalised by our allocation scheme?
Councillor Jones, would you give your reply, please?
There are very clear rules that govern how we manage housing allocation in the city, and I am confident that we apply those fairly and will continue to do so.
Question 22, Councillor Worley, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Lord Mayor, and again, thank you, Councillor Jones, for your written response. So essentially, my understanding from this is that Council has failed to collect around £400,000 over the past 400 years, which could have been reinvested in improving housing and services for our residents. Would you commit to meeting with me to outline what the 28% that has been collected represents, and what plans does the Council have to improve this, quite frankly, appalling performance? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, you may wish to seek clarification on one of the numbers given in that supplementary question.
What I can answer is that there is a very significant piece of work going on around debt collection at the moment, and I'm happy to discuss that with you further. And we always seek to recover stuff where we can, but it's also a balance, and how we're supporting our residents alongside that. It's a difficult time for everyone, and I think we do have to bear that in mind. Obviously, always want to maximise collection because that money goes back in to the housing revenue account, but we also have to be human alongside that. I think it's part of that. But I'm happy to discuss. There is a specific piece of work ongoing, and can discuss that maybe after the meeting, agree a time. That'd be helpful.
Thank you. Question 23, Councillor Schmier, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, and thank you very much for your answer. Sadly, not all of the occurrences were due to changes of key fobs or changes in the electronic entry system. Indeed, many of the incidences seem to be down to changes in rotors, changes in shift patterns, and simply missed collections by the bin crews. So can I just ask you, Councillor Hampden, what are you planning to do to ensure that this problem is improved and doesn't get any worse going forward, please?
Councillor Hampton.
Thank you. From the information that had been provided about the areas you mentioned to officers, obviously discussed some of these issues with them, having learnt of them, the answer reflects what we understood to be the problems. If you believe otherwise, or if there are maybe other locations, whatever you're referring to, please do get in touch with some more details, and we'll go back, have a look, see what the problems were, and what we can do about them. Thank you.
Question 24, Councillor Price, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Lord Mayor. Thank you for the answer. We've had a couple of questions tonight where we've talked about whether or not contractors are getting paid for work that isn't taking place. We have reports about bins not being collected, reasons why. So my supplementary question really relates to your response, where you're saying that that the cleanliness of our council-owned communal bin areas are maintained to a standard. And so what underpins all of this is the kind of checks and balances you have in place, the KPIs, the measurements you do, particularly with a contractor, that they are fulfilling the work and fulfilling it to the standard. So the question is, could the Cabinet member share with me the rationale and the results of auditing work undertaken by the Council and relevant KPIs, which evidences that council-owned communal bin areas are maintained to an acceptable cleanliness standards by NCSL? And simply, if that data doesn't exist, you need to get that commissioned. So that's the question. Thank you.
Councillor Hampton, would you give your reply, please?
I don't have that information in front of me or off the top of my head tonight. I will provide you a response in due course on it.
Thank you. Question 25, Councillor Cullen, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor, I do, yes. Thank you for the figures provided, they're most interesting. The figures show that approximately 1 in 4 of all council homes are currently awaiting repair. How many of these repairs are currently overdue, please?
Councillor Jones, would you give a reply, please?
I, off the top of my head, don't have that exact number, but I will get back to you with that. Yeah, I'll follow up with you outside the meeting.
I look forward to it.
Thank you. Question 26, Councillor Fox, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Lord Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stonnard, for your response. I noticed that you've recently increased your Cabinet members to 8. Does this mean that the Cabinet members
will now be able to commit to keep to actions that have been agreed in public meetings and send courtesy emails to councillors if they choose a different course of action.
Councillor Stoddart, could you give your reply, please?
Yes, I'm sure they will.
Question 27, Councillor Osborne, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Lord Mayor. The response suggests that this is a planned programme of work. Actually, it's very unclear from when residents report urgent repairs and they get a response saying this repair will be done in a set period, whether that is a planned repair or whether it's an urgent one. My concern, and this is what my question is getting at, is how many of those repairs have been delayed. Councillor Calvert just asked a similar question, actually, and I know from asking reciprocal inquiries that the council does not know how many repairs are overdue.
Councillor Jones, would you give your reply, please?
So I'm trying to get to actually what the question was in that. I want to answer it, so...
How many repairs have been delayed?
I don't have that figure off the top of my head.
No,
We've got an awful lot of work going on around NCSL at the moment, around this, and I accept there is room for improvement. I'm totally upfront about that. And it is a work in progress and seeing some positive steps forward, and we will continue to push for those because I think we all agreed we need the best for our residents.
Question 28, Councillor Francis, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor, I do. Thank you, Councillor Hampton, for your answer. For over a year, parents and staff at Madeline Gates Infant School have been reporting multiple bins being constantly left outside the school gates, obscuring their welcome mural. This regularly attracts litter and fly tipping, which presents a health and safety risk to children and adults using the school. Would you be willing to visit the site and explain to our residents why this situation is not serious enough for the council to take action?
Councillor Hamilton, would you give your reply, please?
I'm willing to visit the site. I will, of course, discuss with officers what action has been taken or could be taken as this outlines. We do take some actions. Our approach is relatively informal because evidence has tended to suggest that, especially proportionate to resource, that can be one of the more effective approaches available to us, and we will be reviewing and looking at what those other enforcement and engagement options are, although it's not a straightforward problem a lot of the time, but I'm more than happy to come and see the issue and see what we can do.
Thank you. A second question has been received from Councillor Schmierer, but as more than 30 minutes have elapsed since the start of questions from councillors, this will not be taken. This is in line with the Constitution. Whilst members were asking their supplementary questions, I've been advised by officers that the number of people left in the Mancroft room is now such that we can accommodate them all in here. That wasn't the case, unfortunately, Councillor Osborne, at the point that you interjected, and it would have been difficult to have decided who at that point to have allowed in. So if I could invite all of those people to come through, and then we'll continue with our business. I call upon Councillor Kendrick to move item 6.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Well, in the 4 reports that I shall introduce, including this one, I shall try and be brief given the size of the agenda, so that hopefully we can all finish before midnight, although given how things are going, I think that's probably a forlorn hope. But anyway, can I just come to this particular paper? Can I welcome the fact that as the new Executive Director of Resources, Emily Yule has been appointed. She is currently Strategic Director, Deputy Chief Executive at Rossfield District Council and Brentwood Borough Council, and is the Monitoring Officer for Rossfield District Council. As the new Executive Director for Communities and Housing is Davina Howells. She is currently Director of Families and Communities at West Suffolk Council. Can I also welcome Samira Khan, who will be our new Monitoring Officer. Can I wish all 3 of them the best in their appointments to Norwich City Council. And can I thank Leila Middleborough for her work here at Norwich City Council and wish her the best for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Maguire to second the item.
Just very briefly to echo those words about Leah Middleborough. She's been an outstanding officer. I was part of the panel that interviewed and appointed her, and forgive me using this expression, but she was head and shoulders above the rest of the candidates. So shame for her to go, but wish her good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to invite group spokespersons. Councillor Galvin, would you respond on behalf of the Greens, please?
Thank you. We particularly welcome these permanent appointments. As we've pointed out multiple times over the past 3 years, the situation with interim officers had got slightly out of control, and they've worked undoubtedly really hard for the city. We thank them very much for this work, but they come at a very high price, and this is not ideal. But thank you for the work that everyone has done to recruit the senior officers, who have extremely important roles to play in the transformation of this council. And I would personally like, and I'm sure my group would like, to extend a really very warm welcome to Emily Yule, the new Executive Director of Resources, Davina Howells, the Executive Director of Communities and Housing, and Samira Khan to act as the Council's Monitoring Officer on an interim basis. Norwich is a fantastic city, as we all know, and I'm sure they're going to be very happy working here, and we very much look forward to working with them for the benefit of the residents and the place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stutley, would you like to reply on behalf of the Independent Group, please?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, the Independent Norwich Group is happy to approve these appointments and welcome the permanent arrangements. And we welcome the new officers to Norwich City Council and wish them great success, and look forward to working with them to help achieve that aim. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lubbock, would you like to respond on behalf of the Lib Dems, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We'd like to welcome Emily Yule and Davina Howells to their new roles as Executive Directors of this Council. I was pleased to be part of the recruitment panel for the post of Executive Director, Communities and Housing, and commend the thorough and interactive recruitment process which led to the appointment of these 2 officers. I also welcome the appointment of Samira Khan to act as the Council's Monitoring Officer on an interim basis, and look forward to working with her and the other appointees in the future. And we too are very sad to see Leah leaving the authority. The Liberal Democrats are happy to approve the recommendations contained in this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other councillors wish to say anything at this stage? No? In which case, Councillor Kendrick, would you like to respond?
Nothing to add, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. I think that looks unanimous. So thank you very much. If we could just invite Samira Khan and Leah Middleborough back into the chamber, please. Thank you. So item 7, appointment of the chair of the Licensing and Regulatory Committee. I've been notified in advance of 2 nominations for the chair of the Licensing and regulatory committees. The Labour group has nominated Councillor Huntley, and the Independent Norwich group has nominated Councillor Stuteley. Once the item has been moved and seconded, and group spokespersons have spoken, we will then vote on these, assuming that no other members have indicated, and any other nominations made during the debate. So I call upon Councillor Fulton McAllister to move item 7, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I'm going to keep this relatively brief given the size of the agenda. Ultimately, I'd like to thank Councillor Stuteley for his previous work. However, we will be putting forward Councillor Huntley as our candidate. Councillor Huntley has a strong track record of working with councillors across the chamber. It's important to note that he's been a member of the licensing committee since he joined the council, and he's acted as its vice chair for the last few years. In addition to this, it's also important to note that there has been a long-standing tradition that the governing party has 2 committees, with opposition parties having chairmanship of 2 other committees. And I would hope that this long-standing tradition is supported by other parties within the chamber. Ultimately, deviating from these traditions does lead us down the road of politics which many of us would like to steer clear of. So with that in mind, I formally propose this item.
Thank you. If I can have quiet from the green benches, please. I call upon Councillor Carrington to second the item.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. I'm now going to invite group spokespersons. Councillor Schmierer, would you respond on behalf of the Green Group, please?
Yeah, with pleasure, Lord Mayor. And I want to put on record my personal support for Councillor Stuteley to remain as chair of the licensing and regulatory committees of this council. Licensing remains one of the key functions of lower tier local authorities like Norwich, ensuring that our taxi drivers are fit and proper people, that pubs, bars and clubs are suitably regulated to meet the needs both of business owners and the local community, that our late night economy zone or gambling is fair and fairly regulated. In meetings I have attended in the last few years since I have been on licensing, I found that Councillor Stuteley has been assiduous and conscientious in his work, ensuring that the committee fulfills these important functions. And as someone who has taken a keen interest in licensing, I have enjoyed working with Councillor Stuteley. Now, I have a great personal fondness for Councillor Huntley, but I will be, as I said, supporting Councillor Stuteley. He has gained considerable experience in the years in which he has carried out the function of chair, and I feel it would be unwise for us at the council as a whole to lose that knowledge. Licensing is meant to be an A-party body with a quasi-judicial function. Changing chairs for political reasons, whatever Councillor Fulton McAllister may say, would be as unnecessary as it would be imprudent, and I therefore will be supporting Councillor Stuteley. Thank you.
We call upon Councillor Stuteley to respond on behalf of the Independent Norwich Group.
Thank you. Yes, of course, the role of chair is not to allocate resources, and any failure in any service, the buck rests with the cabinet and the administration. So I don't really understand Councillor Fulton's previous comments, but I won't go any further than that. I think my record speaks for itself, and I thank Councillor Schmierer for his comments. It's a vital position which I was privileged to hold between May 19 and November 2023. I have no regrets about my decision to leave the Labour group, but this was by far the most difficult role to relinquish. But I only ever intended it to be temporary. There are several crucial licensing policies that require expertise ahead of imminent major updates, and I feel no other member can deliver the balance of detailed current knowledge, understanding of the licensing process and complex legal guidance, combined with empathy across wide-ranging views and dedication to public safety, although Councillor Huntley is a very accomplished member of the committee, and I would welcome him as my deputy if I'm successful tonight. So I believe my track record speaks for itself. I've missed just a handful of subcommittees in all that time, while accumulating a legal knowledge and expertise of countless situations across hundreds of cases. Continuity is valuable in a role as important as this, and I'll be honoured if this council will re-elect me to be its chair of licensing for the remaining civic year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ackroyd, would you respond on behalf of the Lib Dems, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I will be brief. As a member of Licensing Committee for many years, I have served under Councillor Stuteley for several of those and know him to be an excellent chair. I would like to reiterate what Councillor Schmierer has said about Councillor Stuteley in that role. I would also like to reiterate what he said about the fondness for Councillor Huntley, and this is in no way about personalities. But I do feel that at a time of changes in officer personnel, consistency and continuity at the important level of chairs of committees is the right approach, at least until the election in May. So we will be supporting Councillor Stuteley as Chair of Licensing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak at this point? Councillor Price.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Representing the ward of Thorpe Hamlet, licensing is intrinsically interwoven into your life, and during the time that I have served on the licensing committee, Ian Steele has been the best chair that we've had, and he has worked hard at trying to make improvements, and he has taken the role very seriously, and so I do appreciate the work he's done. I think Councillor Huntley could well make a very good chair, but as the points have been raised already, continuity is key. It's good governance, it's good practice, and throwing idle threats into the air is unbecoming of members. But for that reason, I would be happy to support Ian Steele through till the end of this electoral cycle, and at that point we will see where the cards fall and the relevant representations that are made by whomever is forming the next council. Thank you.
Any other members wish to speak at this point? In which case, I call upon Councillor Fulton McAllister to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Ultimately, I'd like to respond just by saying thank you to everybody who has given their kind words to Councillor Huntley. He would make an excellent candidate for chair. Thank you.
So we're now going to move to the vote. So there'll be two options. The first one is all those in favour of Councillor Huntley. If you could make sure your hands are fully up so we can see that. 19. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Stuteley. So I can't remember the last time that, if ever, that something in full council has come down to chairs casting vote. But I will be voting for Councillor Stuteley.
Can I bring that constitutional matter up? I believe in our constitution, the Lord Mayor had to vote for the administration if it's a draw.
I'll seek guidance on that from the monitoring officer.
No, it says I was chair of constitution when I went in. Yeah, the Lord Mayor can vote how he wants to start with, but if it's a draw, he's got to work with the administration. That's in there somewhere.
So, page 128 of the Constitution, paragraph 105. If there are equal number of votes for and against, the Lord Mayor may exercise a second or casting vote. There will be no restriction on whether or how the Lord Mayor chooses to exercise a casting vote. And it's in the Constitution. I believe the Constitution is up for amendment at the moment, so members may wish to take that on board. But with that in mind, Councillor Stuteley is elected as Chair of Licensing.
Thank you very much to everyone that voted for me. Thank you.
Item 8, review of polling places and districts. I call upon Councillor Giles to move item 8.
I think given the length of the meeting tonight, I think I'll thank the Democratic Services and Elections team as ever for all of their fantastic hard work finding polling stations to enable us to conduct free and fair elections and formally move. Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Kendrick to second the item.
Formally second, reserve my right to reply.
Thank you. Councillor Champion, would you like to reply on behalf of the Green Group?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We'd like to thank the officers for all their time and for bringing this report to Council. The report is detailed and informative, and broadly we agree with its contents.
Councillor Champion makes his comments. Councillor Champion. Well, in which case, I'll call upon Councillor Stoodley. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, the independent group is happy to approve these proposals. I'd like to thank the elections team, members of the panel, while giving thanks to all the members of all the officers that have been involved now and in the past, including Stuart Guthrie, who was an excellent team leader. We have full confidence in the new team leader and wish them all well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call upon Councillor Ackroyd to respond on behalf of the Lib Dems. Councillor Lubbock.
We're happy to approve the proposals in the report and thank the members and officers for their work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak on this item? Thank you. Councillor Giles, would you like to respond?
I will just reiterate what Councillor Stigley said in relation to Stuart and to thank him for his fantastic service to the Council as Democratic Services Manager. Again, to thank everyone in the Democratic Services team for all of their fantastic hard work and formally move to the vote.
Thank you. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 9. Members' Allowances 2023 to 2024 Independent Remuneration Panel Recommendations. I call upon Councillor Kendrick to move item 9.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. An independent remuneration panel have looked carefully at the level of allowances we received and recommended an increase in our allowances to apply at the same percentage rate that the average staff pay is increased by. It seems eminently equitable and sensible proposal to me. Later on this year, we'll be required to do a full review of members' allowance scheme. If any members have any concerns about the current scheme and wants to be part of involved in the review, then please do so when this time comes. At the end of the day, I think we must always remember that members' allowances are important because it allows ordinary people to actually be involved on an authority like this. And I know of all parties how hard councils work. We really don't want to go back to a day where only those who are wealthy, of independent means, and the elderly, probably myself as well, were able to actually serve in local government. I think it's much better we have a modest, younger and diverse group of councillors these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Fulton McAllister, would you like to second the item?
Formally seconded, reserving right to speak, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I invite group spokespersons. Councillor Catt, would you like to respond on behalf of the Green Group, please?
The Green Group's happy to endorse the recommendation of the independent panel and completely agree with everything that Councillor Kendrick said.
Thank you. Councillor Stoodley, would you like to reply on behalf of the independent Norwich Group?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. In the face of some eye-watering member allowance increases that Tories on County Council awarded themselves in recent years, I was in full support of the system that linked allowances for members of this council to staff salaries. As long as increases for members do not exceed those for council officers, this group will remain in favour of a modest increment to help meet inflation pressures which affect us all. This criteria appears to meet deployment. It's important that we maintain a balance so that people from all backgrounds can afford to dedicate their time to public service, as Councillor Kendrick says. Therefore, we support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lubbock, would you like to respond on behalf of the Lib Dems?
Yes, the Liberal Democrats support the proposal and thank the remuneration panel for the deliberations that they had.
Councillor Kendrick, would you like to respond?
Just to say that if you take this year's and last year's increases, they still actually are a reduction in real terms when accounted for in inflation. I think that's something that the press should bear in mind. Perhaps the journalists who themselves have not taken a pay rise should be financial year 23-24. This report provides details of proposed changes to council revenue provision in accordance with the statutory guidance, which is designed to ensure that resources are available to meet the repayment borrowing. This report was considered by the Treasury Management Committee on the 23rd of November and the Cabinet on the 17th of January, who noted and endorsed the report for consideration and approval at this council. The report asked the Council to adopt the minimum revenue provision policy changes for 23-24 and agree the policy statement set out in Appendix A to be the report. The Council has engaged Links Asset Services, the Council's Treasury Management advisors, to complete a review of the minimum revenue provision policy. The review, which has considered the technical and regulatory guidance, has identified a prudent policy change that the Council can adopt to meet its requirements to charge a minimum revenue provision, but reduce the financial impact on the medium-term financial plan. Revised minimum revenue provision policy statement set out in Appendix A details the financial impact over the life of the policy as shown in Appendix B. Council's Treasury Management activities continue to be monitored against the Council's Treasury Management strategy and in accordance with the advice from Link Asset Services. Therefore, I am pleased that this report illustrates the positive change in the minimum revenue policy and would endorse the recommendation for approval by this Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call upon Councillor Vaughan Thomas to second the item.
Formally seconded, Lord Mayor, will reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Price to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Regrettably, I will speak on this, but as briefly as possible. So MRP, it's a fairly complicated bit of accountancy that for the lay people like ourselves to get our heads around. It's fairly tricky. I appreciate the support of officers with understanding this, and also the work that the Treasury Management Committee has done interrogating officers around this particular subject. So what we've gone for here is to reprofile how we put the MRP aside, and effectively it reduces these sort of upfront costs now to us and spreads it out over the long term. However, it does seem to load the back end of it. Officers have provided assurance that there are a few mitigations that they can do, including a voluntary MRP payment, etc. My concern is that effectively we are potentially creating a bit of a larger problem down the road, and so I do see that this will make savings now over the MTFS, and I do understand that the current minority administration will be prudently looking to save money where it can. So I appreciate the efforts. I am still sceptical that we are not deferring a problem further down the road for this council. So on that basis, the Greens will be abstaining on this particular item, as I did at the Treasury Management Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call upon Councillor Stupi to respond on behalf of the Independent Norwich Group.
Thank you. This group will be supporting this report, and thank you for producing it. It seems to be a prudent and beneficial approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Lubbock to respond on behalf of the Lib Dems.
Yes, as a group, we're happy to adopt the minimum revenue provision policy change, ensuring that resources are available to meet the repayment of borrowing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak at this point? No, in which case I call upon Councillor Kendrick to respond.
Nothing to add, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, in which case we'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. All those against? Abstentions? Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. Can I just make a quick observation. I noticed that some members needed to leave the chamber during that item. Given the speed we're dealing with some items this evening, if possible, could members stay around so they can be available for the entire debate. We will be, when we get to 9:30 point, if there is business still to attend to, having a break at that point. Thank you. So item 11, Treasury Management Mid-Year Review Report.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Thank you very much from my bladder to the fact that we will have a break at 9:30. This report provides details of the first quarter and mid-year review for the Treasury activities for the financial year ending the 31st of March 2024 and highlights the Council's Treasury Management Strategy and compliance with policies and which have previously been approved by the Council. This report was considered by the Treasury Management Committee on the 23rd of November and the Cabinet on the 17th of January, who noted and endorsed the report for consideration and approval at Council. The report's recommendations ask the Council to approve the Treasury Management Mid-Year Review Report 23-24, covering activities undertaken in the first 6 months of this financial year. The Council has adopted the new CIPA Code of Practice for Treasury Management in the public sector and the Prudential Code of Capital Finances in local authorities and operates its Treasury Management activities in compliance with those codes. The codes place responsibility on members to review and scrutinise Treasury Management policy and activities against prudential indicators. This report sets out a range of indicators and highlights there are no breaches to alert you to. Since the start of 2023, the Bank of England has raised the base interest rate from 4% to 5.25%, with the largest increase of 0.5% made on the 22nd of June. The base rate of 5.25% has now been held since early August and burns the Bank of England's narrative to financial markets that UK interest rates will remain higher for longer, whilst headline inflation rate has fallen over the past year. It's still currently double the 2% of the Bank of England's target rate. The Council remains significantly internally borrowed and cash balances available for investment will continue to enable the Council to maximise its returns in the current high interest environment. As set out in the Treasury Management Strategy policy priorities for investment of the Council's day-to-day cash balances are to safeguard security, ensure that liquidity is maintained and then to achieve yield. The Council's Treasury Management activities continue to be monitored against the wider economic background in accordance with linked asset services and the Council's Treasury Management Strategy. I'm pleased to report that this illustrates the positive management of our cash balances and would endorse the recommendation of this report for approval by this Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Kidman to second the item.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Formally second this item and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Call upon group spokespersons. Councillor Price, would you like to respond on behalf of the Greens?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Receiving a mid-year Treasury Management report regarding the strategy and how the strategy has been enacted is good governance and it's good oversight for this Council to receive that report so that we can, outside of the Cabinet, be monitoring for our own selves how our financial trajectory across the year. I can confirm that we have been complicit with that policy at this point, at this midway point in this report. I would also commend the Treasury Management policy in the respect that the forecast shows that there will be an estimated to be above budget at 4.5 million in terms of investment interest earned. And that will be welcome money into services. For me, it's important to consider how this policy reflects the responsibility that this Council has as a leader with financial clout in terms of how it uses its money, how it invests its money, and also where it borrows its money from. Currently, we don't seem to we seem to be lacking in forward projection of our ESG credentials. It's becoming more and more important in local government finance. What I would also say is we've got large procurement coming up with our banking in the next year. And again, we need to be looking at that procurement. So for me, the council can be rightly positioned to vote in favour of accepting this report because we've been compliant. For me personally, the Treasury management policy that we're adhering to doesn't go far enough in using our financial ability to help reshape a transitioning low-carbon world. And so for that fact, I will personally be abstaining upon this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Stuteley to respond on behalf of the Independent Norwich Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to associate myself with the comments about the potential for greater and wider prospects for investments. The Independent Norwich Group is happy to approve this report and as always offer thanks to the Treasury Management Committee and officers, particularly the outgoing Section 151 officer, Neville Merton, for their hard work and dedication to a detailed and complex area. Thank you.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Ackroyd to respond on behalf of the Lib Dems.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. You've all read the report in front of you, and as the fourth speaker tonight, I don't intend to add much. However, as a relative newcomer to the committee, and a temporary one at that, I imagine, I would like to thank officers, particularly the Head of Finance, for very clear information presented and for willingness to answer questions. I take away from meetings and from this report phrases such as security of funds and prudent investment, which stand us in such good stead in difficult times when we read of the plight of other councils. Following on from what Councillor Price has said, I would also add that although it's difficult to rationalise prudent investment with ethical investment, we do have to weigh up the fact that generated income has the power to enable this council to retain, for example, a 100% council tax reduction scheme as one example of services provided to residents. We fully support this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Fulton McAllister.
It'll be brief, Lord Mayor. I really want to call on all opposition councillors to vote one way or the other on this. The numbers are really tight on this issue. Voters want to know where people sit on these issues. This is a vital issue for the people of Norwich and the council's finances moving forwards. Ultimately, it's something where people should be taking a view. We came down to your casting vote the first time in certainly your memory, my memory. People want to see which side your bread's buttered. So I would say if there are any groups with hopes of forming an administration at any point, that you nail your colours to the mast. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak at this point? In which case I'll call on Councillor Kendrick to respond.
Yes, I'd also like to thank the officers, including Neville, and also our new Head of Finance, Robert Mays. Guys, the question of ethical investment has been raised. This whole matter was dealt with in our November Council, where it was stated that obviously that there are legal constraints upon us. We passed a motion asking the government to lift some of those legal restraints. I'm afraid to report to say that they have not done so as of yet. And I do actually think that any opposition group who has aspirations to form an administration has to realise that if and when they do so, they really just can't sit on the fence all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. All those against? Abstentions? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to the motions. So motion 12A, contacting the council and preventing maladministration. I call upon Councillor Catt to move motion 12A.
Thank you. Since being elected in 2022, I was shocked to discover how poorly this council is able to deliver on repairs and maintenance for its thousands of tenants across the city, and how closed off the council actually feels to a lot of its residents. I'd love to be able to sit here and say that that's changed, but frankly, it's just not the case. The council has currently been listed as one of the worst social landlords in the country, with the highest maladministration rate of any council in the country. And I want to just go through a story from a resident in my ward. And this is a story that's listed in under a housing ombudsman's review, which I'm sure and I'm hoping that people on the opposite benches have read. Back in December 2020, a mother and her child reported damp and mould in her property. The roof was leaking, water running down the walls. The report of damp and mould was listed as non-emergency. 5 months later, in May 2021, the council listed it as fully abandoned. Problems obviously continued to persist for over a year. December 2022, just when an electrician was there, they advised the council that wiring the property could not be used as it was so wet from the damp, in a non-emergency case. They noted the damp issues in the property were very bad, recommending a damp survey. Later that month, the resident made yet another plea to the council, saying she was been experiencing these issues. They'd not improved for 2 years. Whole units in her kitchen couldn't be used due to mould. Her bathroom, her front room, her front bedroom, all mouldy, damp surrounding plug sockets, unable to decorate her house and make it a home, clothes becoming damp, had to buy plastic boxes for her belongings. She also mentioned that she was allergic to penicillin, had an autoimmune disease, and specifically said that she was concerned that the development of black mould could kill her. The next month, in January, she sent more photos, told the council that it was only getting worse. Having responded to her saying that a simple mould wash would be carried out, she told the council that she'd been doing that daily, weekly at times, but the problem had only continued to get worse. But again, repeatedly told that, we'll do a mould wash and that'll be fine. Sections of her ceiling were now falling down. That month, she was admitted to hospital with pneumonia. When discharged on the 30th of January, she met the damp surveyor at her property, who told her it was not safe to be living there. On February 3rd, Property Services told her that they would not be decanting her into another property after she had been told that it was not safe to live there, after she had been admitted to hospital. Her GP sent a letter confirming she was hospitalised due to the mould in her property, and the council should urgently rehouse her. A short hotel stay was arranged. In response to a complaint later on in February, the council said that works had been complete, the case was now closed. That wasn't true. The damp and mould issues were still present in the property. Meanwhile, both myself and Shelter were trying to get answers from the council, trying to get the resident rehoused, to no avail. We supported the resident to escalate her complaint, to which the council told her if she wanted to be rehoused, she should just join the Home Options Register, which was particularly insulting. We were all told that works were complete.
Point of order. I do believe, sorry, Councillor Catt, I do believe the Constitution does rule out references to individual casework. And as much as I think there is a lot of merit in the issues you're talking about, I do think we need to adhere to that.
Thank you, Councillor Councillor. I was trying to see how we were going in terms of whether, but it's a valid point, because I think we were being quite specific there, and having looked at the motion ahead of this meeting, it feels quite a broad motion. So I wonder if you can broaden out.
I'm just concerned about the memory of the public's personal engagement.
The case, again, has come from a housing ombudsman ruling, which is, again, the council have access to, and that's something that, again, is published online as well, if people want to have a read. More than happy to walk other councillors through this case if they want to know. But essentially, I can tell you that I've been putting in council inquiries every single week on cases and having no response, whether that's housing or whether that's other inquiries that people have been making to the council. They just feel that it's completely closed off. And this motion has lots of measures within it to try and improve that. And specifically within the Housing Ombudsman report as well, it said in there that complaints were not investigated at all. It also showed evidence that I was lied to and the shelter were lied to by the council as well. And again, this is in dealing with serious housing cases. And again, I get the same treatment with other inquiries when I'm trying to follow up where the council have, or where residents have been trying to get in touch with the council. This motion is just trying to make the council feel more open and improve trust within the council. There's specific references in there to try and strengthen that specifically for housing tenants as well, and that is again why I decided to walk you through that particular case. And that's that is a story that is true for thousands of tenants. I can't count the number of times that residents have been treated in this particular way. And this motion will just provide steps to improve that. I would also like to note as well that this motion was a version of it was brought previously, seconded by Councillor Lubbock, and so I do hope that the Lib Dems will be supporting this motion as well.
Kat, can I just briefly interrupt you again? Just to make you aware, I mean, you just made a statement saying there were thousands of cases. Reminder to all members in the chamber that as councillors we have a duty to ensure that we can evidence things that we're saying in our statement. So just so you have that in the back of your mind when you continue your speech, please. Oh, that was finished. Okay, thank you. Right, I call upon Councillor Young to second the item.
Yes, thank you. On behalf of the Green Group, I'd like to thank you for bringing this important motion, which we wholly support. Equality and fairness for every member of this vulnerable and powerful group in society fits entirely with our principles. Oh, sorry, this is...
We're on 12A at the moment.
Oh, sorry, I'm just seconding this one. Apologies. Reserve my right to speak.
So that is formally seconded. So we'll now move over to group spokespersons. Councillor Packer, would you like to respond on behalf of the Labour Group, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And thank you to the councillors for putting forward this motion. It is essential that contact between residents and the council is effective and efficient. This is something we take very seriously. To add some context, on current figures, the City Council will receive approximately 312,000 contacts over 12 months via customer contact. Following the Ombudsman's findings, work was started with officers to support and focus service areas on making improvements to their complaint responses. The motion in front of us crosses a range of departments and includes 31 separate resolution actions. Some of the actions are already in place. For example, councillors will be aware that residents can report issues by visiting City Hall and speaking to the advisor based in the customer centre. Residents can also contact the council by phone or online. For other actions, though, there are a range of implications, including very significant resources, which I feel need to be worked through by officers before councillors will be in a position to make informed decisions. For example, the motion references reopening the customer contact centre. In its previous form, the centre had a number of officers on hand. To redesign the centre as it was previously would be hugely resourceful intensive through increased advisors and the need for new equipment, including queue management technology. I feel that when we vote on a motion, councillors need to be aware of what the cost could be to the council, where the funding will be sourced, what implications there are for our staff, and whether it delivers best value for all of our residents. I would not be comfortable voting for a motion not knowing how and where the actions will be funded, as this could inadvertently expose the council to significant risk at a time when local government in general is under insurmountable pressure. To do this motion justice and give the meaningful and important response to which I know every member of this chamber believes in, and based on the very wide-ranging nature of this motion, I recommend that it is put to a cabinet meeting where once there's been ample time to identify all of the implications of the 31 action points, This matter can be given the time it deserves. I do not feel that the time we have available this evening will do this motion justice. So with that in mind, Lord Mayor, I wish to move a motion under Part 74A of the Constitution that this matter be referred directly to Cabinet.
Thank you. So that's 74A of the Constitution. In order. Do I need a seconder for that? Councillor Hampton. Let me just look up that specific. I've got it in front of me here. So, 74. So the following motions may be moved without notice, and after debate we'll move to the vote. 74A, to refer something to an appropriate body or individual for consideration or reconsideration. So we've got a proposed and seconded motion under 74A. So what now needs to happen is there needs to be a debate, there can be a debate on that item, 74A, but not about the substantive aspect of the motion itself, simply the specifics around moving it to Cabinet. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you. Some councillors will recall that a version of this motion came to council almost a year ago, actually it was in March 2023, and it was referred then, I think, to the scrutiny committee, but certainly referred to a different committee, and then nothing happened with it. That's why we're bringing this motion back again. As Councillor Catt highlighted, there are serious issues in the way that complaints and contact from tenants and residents are dealt with. As Councillor Packer indicated, there are a lot of points in this motion, but that covers all of the areas where there are things that the council can improve in terms of one of the key things that comes up on the doorstep for residents and in reports like the Ombudsman's report or the peer review. So this is why we think that this should be debated in the council chamber where there's full accountability, rather than being pushed off to another committee or to the cabinet, which might not consider it in the same way that this council will.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to comment? I wasn't sure who I saw first there, but we'll go with Councillor Champion, then officers will start writing names down. So Councillor Champion, you go first. Remember, we're talking on the merits or not of sending this to Cabinet rather than the substantive item itself.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. When I was on at the scrutiny committee when a similar discussion was had, and we were told that there was no point discussing it in scrutiny because it would be dealt with or was being dealt with by Cabinet. Ever since I've been elected, communication with the council has been an ongoing and persistent issue, and one which seems to not, it's a can that we're kicking down the road. And whilst I appreciate that it is within the Cabinet's remit to deal with this, I feel this is a discussion that we should be having in the full chamber. And so I would encourage my fellow councillors, and as we've had some partisan statements today, I would say don't follow the party whip. Maybe, follow your own conscience. You know from your own experience, I would imagine, that you have got residents who are also unhappy with the way the communication occurs. So let's do the right thing here and discuss this in the chamber, pass a motion that will actually have some effect and make some difference. Thank you.
Thank you. So just so members are aware who I've seen, Councillors Hampton, Oliver, Davis, Jones and Mike Sands, all to talk on, and Councillor Catt on the sending this referring to Cabinet. So Councillor Hampton, next please.
Yeah, thank you. I want to back up what Councillor Packer was saying. This is a motion with, I think, literally dozens of resolution points. Councillor Catt picked up some important elements of what this motion contains in his opening speech, but it's still quite a narrow slice of what this covers. Last time this motion came, and when a lot of this, the customer service elements fell in my portfolio, I did my best in my, 5 minutes or so I'm allocated to go through as many of those points as I could, because some of them we may potentially support, but they're very resource intensive. Some of them, arguably, I wouldn't even say a best practice, or maybe not the way they're phrased. Maybe if we were able to have a proper open discussion about this at another point, that may cease to be the case. I believe before we did attempt to send it to scrutiny, might need to look at the mechanisms of how that works, but scrutiny, I think, ultimately sort of controls its own agenda. Hopefully, if it's a topic people do want to look at in that forum, members can make that happen. But as it stands, I support taking this to Cabinet, where we can have a much better opportunity to look at all the implications of everything this motion suggests. It cuts across lots of portfolio holders. It will be something lots of people want to kind of feed into us too, I'm sure, in the interim, and we will give it proper consideration. But I don't think this is the right forum, even if every member kind of had their 3 minutes. I don't think that's long enough to really do this justice.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Oliver next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just in response to something that Councillor Parker said, I didn't understand that the motion's actually committing us to any spending or investment of resources today, as it's a review. And if you look at the language, it's very much about, sorry, just scroll up a little bit, reviewing, exploring, reviewing, ensuring, assessing, allowing, etc. There's nothing to commit us to making those kind of binding decisions.
Unfortunately, we're currently debating 74A, so we're not dealing with comments related to the substantive motion itself.
Yeah, no, so was I, because it's a comment on why I believe that we should hear the motion today.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Could I just ask for clarification under paragraph 131 of the Constitution? Can we have clarification from the monitoring officer whether or not they have been informed in advance of this meeting of any whipping arrangements on any item in this agenda? Thank you.
I'm happy to say that I haven't.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Sands.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I certainly concur with the call to have this referred back to Cabinet. And certainly I think all of us deal with casework here, and listening to Councillor Catt and his problems with casework, they're completely different from my own experience. I can only think that perhaps he's handling his casework in the wrong way, and I'd be happy to give him some assistance in how to handle his casework and get these things resolved properly, because while I've had some serious housing issues, I've certainly not had those sorts of problems in getting things resolved.
Thank you. It seems timely that Councillor Catt is next up. Councillor Catt.
I'm not going to acknowledge those comments. I just want to say that this is a motion about contacting the council, and since being elected in 2022, again, it's been a repeated issue. This has come back before, it's been referred to a committee, nothing's happened. So I don't know why you expect us to have confidence that that's going to happen this time. As Councillor Hampton said, it'd be great to have an open discussion about this. That's great. If you would like to arrange that, I'll be more than happy and very open to that. But I don't have confidence that that will actually happen as a result of this motion to refer it to Cabinet.
Thank you. And apologies to Councillor Jones, who I'd ticked as having spoken, but who hadn't actually spoken. So, Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Just in support of taking this to Cabinet, I would welcome the opportunity to work with my colleagues, given the cross-department, the areas it comes across, it covers, have that opportunity. I know this isn't directly on moving it, but Councillor Catt, could we speak at the end of the meeting to put something in the diary to go through these cases that you were referring to, and that we can work through those one by one, maybe book something in next week? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ackroyd.
Yes, I will just say that, thank you, Lord Mayor, that I was disappointed when earlier in the year this particular topic didn't come to scrutiny. But thinking of what we heard already, I do feel it's a much wider motion. It's a very wide motion that we're looking at tonight. Managing effective consultations, everyday contact with customer services, engagement with tenants, and improving contact with contractors. And for me, I feel it's too wide for us to debate tonight. I would like to see it go back to Cabinet for guidance and action, and hopefully from there, maybe to scrutiny or back here or whatever is the best way forward, because it is a really important motion that's here, and I wouldn't want to see it just kicked into the long grass and abandoned, but I do feel it should go back to Cabinet. Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll be brief. The issues that we're seeing here affect all councillors across the council. And this is the forum where we can make a decision as a wider council. We can acknowledge where we are failing, where we need to make improvements. And we can do that together collectively to the public at home, and the public here tonight. When Councillor Catt says that he lacks the belief that the Cabinet will act accordingly on this, I have to share that concern. So many times I see recommendations from here or from other committees go to Cabinet and really don't receive the credence that they deserve and not are acted upon within the spirit of the idea that was brought forward in the first place. All members have had this motion for a number of days. They could have spoken to Councillor Catt, they could have raised their concerns. Any group could have brought constructive amendments tonight to it. To sit here and say this is too complex a decision for us to make is, I think, underplaying your own abilities. What I would say is, people are watching, okay, acknowledge where we need to make improvements, and as the Democrat had put, let's not kick this into the long grass. So make that stand now and vote for the motion, and let's start to make the improvements that we need to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Does anyone else have anything they wish to say about the merits of or not of sending this to Cabinet? If not, as the mover of the motion under 74A, I'll call upon Councillor Packer if you wish to respond, and then we'll put it to the vote.
Just to be brief, I do think this is the responsible approach to take, and the proof is in the pudding. So if it does get voted to go to Cabinet, I think taking it as a scrutiny point of work next year would be a very sensible idea as well. So there will be clear actions taken by this Cabinet and this Council to improve its services.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour of whether to refer the matter directly to Cabinet, please indicate. Thank you. All those against? No abstentions, that's carried, so that matter is referred to Cabinet. So we are now past the 2-hour mark. So after 2 hours since the start of the meeting, I can now ask whether we're happy to take the remaining items as unopposed. Does any member wish to oppose any of the remaining items? Councillor Mike Sands.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I certainly oppose motion 12D, which is to scrap the seal arrangements.
That's 12 Delta. Thank you. Does anyone oppose any other motions? Councillor Stannard.
Yes, 12B, motion to council wholly owned companies.
Yeah, thank you. So that's 12 Bravo, the wholly owned companies. Any other motions to oppose? Thank you very much. Well, I should have also said that 12C had some amendments that have been accepted, so we're effectively saying that the amended version goes unopposed. So that's fine. Thank you very much. Well, as we're at 9:30 and members are probably in need of a comfort break, we will have 10 minutes. So I'll restart with 12 minutes. I'll restart at 10 to 10. 21:50, and we'll get on to the next two items. Thank you very much. Members, if you could take your seats. Item 12B, motion Norwich City Council's wholly owned companies. I call upon Councillor Osborne to move motion 12B.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've heard quite a lot this evening about the conditions in certain council properties. Not all council properties by any means, but contrary to what Councillor Sands has said, I have had, and I'm sure lots of councillors in this chamber have had, issues with tenants facing mouldy homes, leaking roofs that take years to get repaired, broken windows. I had a case where someone reported a broken window and they came and replaced the front door instead of fixing the window.
Councillor Sands.
I said nothing that Councillor Osborne is ascribing to me. What I said was I would be happy to work with Councillor Catt because he seems to have trouble doing his casework.
Well, can we both park that and move on with the substantive matters to hand?
Very happy to continue with the matter at hand.
Then I'd ask Councillor Osborne to withdraw his statements about me, thank you.
I'm just going to continue with the matter at hand.
I'd ask him to withdraw the statements.
Councillor Sands, advised by the monitoring officer, you don't get to do that.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And one of the reasons for this state of affairs is because the council has given up control of the repairs and maintenance services. Of course, many years ago, decades ago, under the Conservatives, that was forcibly taken away from councils under Thatcher. Yet the council has had an opportunity since then to retain and regain control of the services by insourcing the services that are now delivered by NTSL, previously Norse, and before that a whole carousel of private companies. Just to give an outline of what that lack of control means, Councillor Katz indicated some of what that means. I, as a councillor, have had a number of cases where tenants have booked whole days off work to get a repair fixed and nobody turns up, nobody knows why. When I've asked the council what's happened, nobody can tell me why. When I've asked the council when the repair will be rescheduled, nobody can tell me why. When I ask the council, as I have done this evening and many times before, how many repairs are overdue, nobody can tell me how many. When I've asked the council how many repairs have had to be rescheduled and for what reason, nobody can tell me why. And all of this is because the council has given up control and ceded it to a private company which limits the oversight of the council. And understandably, I know this is an issue in Mancroft. I know that it's a pattern that's repeated across the city. And NCSL and the system that has been set up with NCSL is at the heart of this. And that's not saying that NCSL itself is the problem, but it's the system of contracts and repair orders and this incredibly intricate system that is at the heart of that problem. It means that tenants can't call up the council and the council can then send someone out to fix their repair because they have to raise a work order with NTSL, which has to fit into the contract that NTSL has with the council. And if schedules need to be changed, then there has to be a process of negotiation between the council and the company to achieve that. Norwich isn't alone in facing those sorts of problems. There have been lots of other councils who faced higher costs and poorer service quality as a result of the outsourcing that took place under Thatcher and then continued under New Labour. But there is a movement now for councils and other public services to bring services back in-house, and that's something that Unison and many other public service unions are backing as a campaign. Places like Islington, Exeter, Maidstone, many other councils have actually saved money and improved the service quality by insourcing frontline services, including repairs and parks maintenance, street cleaning, other frontline services. So what we're proposing in this motion is not absolutely committing to insourcing NCSL. Personally, I think that is the right way to go. I think it will give the council control over the services. It would improve paying conditions for the workers. It would also mean, by insourcing that, it would mean that those workers can actually provide the service that they want that they want to provide for the people in Norwich, rather than having to go via the private company and the complex and costly system of contracts that involves. But the motion doesn't commit to that because we know that there could be significant costs involved in that. So what we're asking for is a business case and an options appraisal with a view to assessing the options for insourcing. So we know that, just to be very clear on that, we know that we can't fully commit to that, but that should be the direction of travel in my view. It's also worth saying that raising, the cost involved, raising the pay is for some of the lowest paid workers doing work on behalf of the council, and that should be the aim. Really, it should be the aim of a Labour administration, I have to say. Certainly the aim of what would be a Green administration. To conclude, local government work should be carried out by local government workers who are properly paid, and the control and the responsibility for issues such as the ones that have arisen within NCSL should rest with the politicians who are elected to run the council, because these are council services. It shouldn't rest with a private company.
Thank you. Call upon Councillor Catt to second the motion.
I formally second and reserve their right to speak.
Thank you. I'll now invite group spokespersons. Councillor Stoner, if you'd like to respond on behalf of the Labour.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I want to start by paying tribute to the staff of NCSL, who I know are committed to delivering really, really great and good quality services for our residents. And I'm being told they're engaging very constructively with the new management team to improve service performance. I will not dispute that there have been challenges with the performance of the company, which resulted in prompt action as soon as I became leader to ensure the focus was in place to make the necessary improvements. Those changes are gaining traction, particularly in financial governance and financial performance. There also is a pressing need to improve service delivery performance. This is being led by the new management team, and I'm very pleased to be able to report that the workforce is engaged and I'm being told are enthusiastic about the challenges. I have high hopes of both management and the extremely committed workforce. Last summer, the shareholder panel, of which the leader of the Green Party group is a member, asked the company for a business plan to be produced by the end of December, setting out the process, actions, targets and timescales for the improvement in service delivery performance. We have now received and are considering that plan. We have worked with management and staff to get to this stage and to have a plan ready to implement. This is not the moment for the Green Party to suggest a wholesale change of direction, scrapping all the excellent work and creating further uncertainty for the workforce, which has over the years seen far more than its fair share of change and uncertainty, and now are constructively engaged in the service improvement challenges. We always said this was a 3-year project, and once again, it seems a little strange to me to suggest changing direction and effectively pulling the rug at this point. In fact, I'd go further and say that the suggestion strikes me as very left field and will potentially undo a great deal of excellent work that has and is being done. So I think the Green Party needs to think very carefully about what they've done in proposing this motion. This would be really destabilising for the workforce, and it could derail the plans that have been put in place to improve the services for residents. And actually, at times of change, we all know that performance dips. It doesn't improve when there's uncertainty and change. Do you really want to risk that? Do you really want to risk making it worse? All the issues you've been talking about tonight. The Green Party also needs to be aware that we live in a world of hard financial realities, where budgets must balance and proposals must be affordable. The Council has a duty to ensure best value for money for all its operations and to propose this course of action when we know there are potential very significant costs on the basis of vague statements in the motion about imagined cost savings, rather than a full and thorough financial appraisal, will be thoroughly irresponsible and not something this administration could support. Let's not forget that the reason this Council's finances are so relatively strong at this difficult time for local authority finance is the careful stewardship by Labour administrations throughout austerity and the cost of living crisis, and and the Green Party does seem hell-bent on forcing through vague, reckless, uncosted proposals that could completely undermine this sound financial management and plunge the council into financial chaos. It's clear the amounts we're talking about are very, very significant. So given this and the critical need to protect the interests of the stability of the country, the best interests of the fantastic workforce who needs stability, and the financial security of this council, I wish to move a motion under Part 74A of the Constitution that this matter be referred directly to Cabinet.
Right, okay, so thank you. We have another 74A. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hampton. So I'll now invite a debate on 74A. Councillor Osborne and Councillor Fulton McAllister.
I appreciate the Cabinet might want to look at this issue. I have to say that members of the public, I think, have turned out to watch the debate on this motion specifically, waited patiently for the whole meeting. So I think it's a disservice to them to refer it to another committee on another day, which won't have the same level of public engagement. And you talked about engaging with the workforce. I think it's actually really important that we have this debate in public and where there's accountability and the members of the public can see what is being said on both sides. Because frankly, to say that the workforce will be disrupted and performance will be lowered because of change. Actually, what we need is openness and transparency and accountability. And what you're trying to do now by shutting down the debate is going in the opposite direction.
Councillor Fulton McAllister.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. First of all, I'd like to highlight that obviously some may consider I have a conflict of interests on this. I have resigned my role as director so that I may speak on this matter, and that was undertaken today, so it's not updated on Companies House, but the resignation has been accepted, and therefore I do not have any conflict of interest. Moving on to the discussion about whether it should be dealt with by Cabinet or this meeting. Ultimately, it would be disingenuous to say that we could have a debate within this meeting about the serious financial implications. One of the big issues is the pension arrangements for the company. Some of that may well, and I would suggest in my former role as a director, it would be commercially sensitive information. We'd have to exclude the public potentially in any case. I don't want to be disingenuous to those workers that I have worked with for years at this point. I've sat around the negotiating table as a director with some of these conveners. It's part of trade union negotiations to have a solid position before you start to have these public debates. And at the moment, the Cabinet does not have any unified views on this because, look, I'm a trade union official by background. I want the company to be in-house if it is affordable, but it does need to be affordable, and therefore we do need to look at all of the costs and have that briefing as a Cabinet.
Thank you. Which board are we okay. Councillor Price.
Thank you. I will be brief. I'm assuming that I'm speaking to the point 74 or whatever, and I will be able to speak on the main event. I just want to pick up the fact that there are people here that waited 2.5 hours, and there is maybe some legitimacy in Cabinet looking at this, but you've had that opportunity to bring that upon yourselves, and effectively you've not done that. Okay, and you're not looking at insource. You've not looked at bringing it back in-house. So to just sit here and put people through 2.5 hours council business and then to not have the debate, you could have moved it, leader. You could have moved it after the debate. You could have let the debate go and then you could have moved that. But what you've done is you're attempting to shut it down. I don't think that reflects well on the council. That's why I will not be supporting your amendment to move to that. And hopefully we can have the debate. Now, if at the end of that council decide that the best way forward is through cabinet, then that's for council to decide. But let's have the debate. Thank you.
Councillor
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm just rereading the motion, and it does ask Cabinet to prepare an options appraisal for the future of NCSL, which should include a business case for bringing services currently delivered by NCSL back in-house. And then it asks Cabinet to discuss the business case. So if we agree to this motion, it'll end up with Cabinet. But it doesn't ask for any confidential information to be disclosed. It just asks for a business case to be created, to be then discussed at Cabinet. So I just don't think the point that Councillor McAllister was making is really relevant. And I think, you know, as others have been saying, lots of people have been waiting for this to be discussed publicly. Thank you.
Councillor Schmierer?
Yeah, basically, Councillor Hogan has basically said what I wanted to say, which is that this is a motion that Councillor Osborne has said in committing ourselves to anything, looking at the wording of it. The salient parts of the motion are asking Cabinet to look at it. So we're asking Cabinet to consider asking Cabinet to look at this. This is something out of the Humphrey Appleby playbook. Now, we're better than this. Let's debate it here. There are 38 councillors present. All of us have got a vested interest in getting the best deal for our residents. Let's debate it here, soberly and transparently, and then you can take it back to Cabinet at your leisure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Galvin?
Thank you very much. As you mentioned, I'm a member of the shareholder panel and I'm bound by confidentiality around all the figures around that, etc., which I will stick to. But I will say I've been asking for an options appraisal for 3 years and promised that I've never had it. So that is something that you need to bear in mind here. It's insulting to unions and workers who support this motion, actually, and have come along to hear it, to not debate it now, having got this far. And if Cabinet can't agree, therefore it can't be debated in public, it just doesn't make sense. So I think we've come this far with it. We need to carry on, debate it properly, which is the process we follow. We're part of the process. You can't derail that at this point.
Councillor Davis?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Could I request a recorded vote on the vote on 74A so people can see who wishes to debate this and who doesn't? Thank you.
Lord Mayor, I don't think that's what the vote is it?
Well, then we're just checking.
Debate or not? I never heard that in 74A.
Five. So it takes 5 members to request a recorded vote. So we have 5 members. So, and Councillor Driver, there can be a recorded vote. It's a recorded vote, and this is important for the record, a recorded vote on the notion of sending this item to Cabinet for consideration, not the substantive item.
Not to discuss it.
So we're on 74A, so there'll be a vote at some point. I've still got more members who've indicated to speak, but there will be a vote on whether to refer this item to Cabinet. We've had a request that's been backed up by the required number of members for that vote to be taken on a recorded basis rather than simply by a show of hands.
So, in other words, when we put our hands up, the recorder will record.
No, so one of the officers will read the names out in alphabetical order as per what will happen at Budget Council next month.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. 103 does state that a named vote shall not be made on procedural decisions, and I would argue this is a procedural decision. I'd like to ask the monitoring officer's opinion on that.
So the Constitution defines some motions as being procedural, but not 74. 74 isn't a procedural motion as defined by the Constitution. I think, as Leah has said in the past, the Constitution is silent on that matter. So we will take a recorded vote on that. But before we get to the notion of a recorded vote, I've still got other members who've indicated to speak. So, Councillor Catt.
I'll keep it brief. Obviously, in trying to shut down the debate, the Cabinet just want to hide what their position is on this, and I would just like to ask you what your position is. It would be great if you could just publicly say that. And secondly, I've raised already in this meeting concerns around how people feel the Council responds to issues they raise, and this is now the second time in this meeting that we are shutting down a debate. And I would just ask councillors on the other side of this chamber to perhaps reflect on that.
Lord Mayor, point of personal explanation, my position is I would love to have NCSL in-house if it is affordable. I had said that very clearly.
Councillor Calvert.
I think it's very clear that if you're concerned that your vote will be recorded,
We're not. You're trying to intimidate us. We're not intimidated.
If we let Councillor Calvert speak, please.
I appreciate I can't ask anyone to withdraw their comments. I don't think anyone should be making such implications, though. I think if you are worried because your vote will be recorded, then you're doing the wrong thing.
So, thank you. Does any of the other members wish to speak on the motion to refer to Cabinet? Councillor Ackroyd and then Councillor Sands. Mike Sands.
As ever, I'm going to be guilty of straying from the point here, I know, but I believe this is a significant piece of work, which we are looking to address or not address at this point. I think what's concerning me right now is that we start to address this piece of work with complex issues at this time of night. I know that's not quite what we're talking about, but it does concern me that it is very late in the day to begin a debate on such a significant piece of work. I will just throw that into the arena. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Sands.
I'd like to echo Councillor Ackroyd's words there. I'd also like to sort of say when Councillor Osborne was giving his opening spiel, he seemed to have contradictory arguments in what he was saying. He was saying, bring it in-house, don't bring it in-house. It really was a confusing introduction to the motion, and I'm certainly just more than happy to have a recorded vote.
We weren't debating the notions of recorded vote, but thank you for that. Does anyone else wish to comment on Councillor Stukeley?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to reiterate that members of the public have come here tonight to see a debate on an important issue that will affect their lives significantly, and I think we should have that debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, and then Councillor Sands.
I will be voting to support referring this to Cabinet because it does represent people's lives and it's quite a large workforce, NCSL, and it's all their lives, and I take it that seriously, and that's why I want to refer it to Cabinet.
Thank you. Councillor Sands.
Yeah, totally back up what Councillor Jones just said. And also, judging by the conversations going on around me, I think we need some clarification about exactly what we're voting on, how it fits in, what's going on. If you wouldn't mind, Lord, then that'd be good.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll got two other members that now indicated, Councillor Champion and Councillor Fox.
As far as I'm aware from reading this motion myself, this is largely advisory, and so the notion that what we're voting for, whether it goes to Cabinet or not, the idea that we can debate it in here, and I granted that it is late, but I think it's important that we have public and open debates. That's the whole premise of democracy. And by not debating something that is essentially meant to give some guidance and give the Cabinet some, this motion isn't committing the Council to do anything. What this motion is doing is highlighting very important issues which do affect a lot of people, and because they affect a lot of people, therefore it's important that we allow ourselves the discomfort of sitting up a bit later and discussing them. It seems disingenuous to not discuss something which has been brought to this chamber because you think it would be better to do it behind shut doors.
Councillor Fox and Councillor Lubbock.
Quite frankly, I'm finding this really embarrassing because I'm here to serve people in Norwich and to serve the people who work in Norwich. And if they show up to hear something debated, I feel we owe it to them to do that. And I just think it's rude, and I can't see how people aren't embarrassed that they want to, sweep this off the floor and get it behind closed doors. This doesn't commit the cabinet to doing take an NCSL back in house. It's not committing anything into the budget. It's just saying this will be looked at. We'll actually take this seriously. And if cabinet wanted to do that before now, surely they would have done. They've been here for a while now.
Councillor Lubbock.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just wanted to point out that Cabinet is not behind closed doors. It's a public, it's open to the public and people can attend just as they are this evening. And I think if we can just delay it until such time as we do have report to Cabinet, we'll be much better informed. And, Cabinet can make recommendations to Council and it can come back. But I just don't think it's fair to say that it's behind closed doors. It's certainly not.
Councillor Mike Sands, you had indicated, but you've already spoken once, so I can't invite you back.
I was going to make exactly the point that Councillor Lubbock made.
You've already spoken anyway. Councillor Worley.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. One concern I have around moving this to Cabinet is that at Cabinet meetings, members who aren't members of Cabinet only get one question, whereas here in a full council meeting we can ask and have a proper thorough debate. So I appreciate it may not be behind closed doors, but the kind of debate that we can have and the quality of the debate is incredibly limited. And that is a concern on such an important issue.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, you've already spoken as well on this, unfortunately. Councillor Princely. We're rapidly running out of members who haven't spoken on the...
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm just looking at page 119 of our bundle of documents, and it has points from point 6 to point 11. Now, I don't think any of us could disagree with point 6. I think it would be hard to disagree with point 7. And then point 8, 9, 10 and 11 are simply resolutions to ask the Cabinet to discuss it, which is, in fact, what we have suggested we will do. So I'm struggling with why we're having this prolonged conversation at this time of night, when, in fact, there seems to be widespread agreement that we need the Cabinet to further discuss this. But we don't need to vote for the Cabinet to discuss this if this is the resolution. I think we're talking ourselves round in circles, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other members who wish to speak at this point? Otherwise, I will call on Councillor Stannard to make some closing remarks on the motion to refer to Cabinet.
I shall. The first thing I want to say is that we're not putting this behind closed doors. That's not the idea. And indeed, people have commented, from Councillor Worley, about how often people can ask questions of Cabinet. Actually, as we're seeing this evening, you can only make one contribution in any debate in this chamber. It's absolutely no different, and we just see that in action. It's also been suggested that we should make the decision on the basis that there are people who are interested in the public gallery. And I recognise they've been here a long time, and I recognise that they would like to see the debate take place. And I'm really sorry about that, but we shouldn't be making decisions on the basis of who's sitting in the gallery. We need to look at the real issues in front of us and do the right thing as we see it. I talked to the unions. They've never raised this with me, and certainly I think before we should be considering something like this, then I think I ought to be talking to them. You're clearly talking to them, but I haven't had that discussion with them, and I made it clear to them that NCSL would improve terms and conditions when affordable. That's what I've said to the unions, but I've never said we're looking to bring it back in-house. We might at some point. Personally, I'd love to see it in-house, but I think it would be discourteous of me to vote for this without actually talking to the unions. I also think the fact that they're here is probably because you invited them, so I think you should probably apologise to them for putting them in this position. Don't laugh. I think you really should. I think it's really rude, and you really ought to be having that conversation. And I will carry on having conversations with them about matters related to NCSL. And if they wish to raise with me the matter of bringing the service in-house, I'll be very happy to have that discussion with them. This motion is proposing a course of action in the middle of a process that we've already set, out of the blue, and we need to go back to that process, not have the Green Party trying to make policy from a distance, trying to use this meeting to upset that process and force our hand. I don't think that's appropriate, and you know that it isn't. I also have concerns about in the motion, and again another reason why I think this needs to go to Cabinet. It's this very confused idea that you have an options appraisal which includes a business case for one of the options.
So, Councillor Stannard, your time is now up.
Yes, okay. So I have concerns about the motion, the way it's written. I think it's confused, muddled, and I think the person who wrote it doesn't understand how options appraisals work. So for that reason, we're proposing to remit to Cabinet so we can look at this properly, we can have proper discussion about it and not derail the process that's in place.
So for clarification for members, we have a debated 74A motion to refer this item to Cabinet. There will be a recorded vote as that's been requested. So Lucy, will you read? Yeah. So Leah will read the names out, and then members will say for, against, or abstain as to how they feel about sending this item to Cabinet.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I'll call each councillor by surname alphabetically in turn. So, Councillor Ackroyd. For. Calvert.
Against.
Carrington. For. Cat.
Against.
Champion.
Against.
Davis.
Against.
Driver.
For.
Everett.
Against.
Fox.
Against.
Francis.
Against.
Fulton McAllister.
For.
Galvin.
Against.
Giles.
For.
Hampton.
For.
Haynes. Oh, she's absent, sorry. Hockner.
Against.
Huntley.
For.
Jones.
For.
Kendrick.
For.
Kidman.
For.
Lubbock.
For.
Maguire.
For.
Oliver. Osborne.
Against.
Packer.
For.
Paddock. For. Peake.
For.
Price, sorry.
Shameful. Against.
Prinsley.
For.
Mike Sands.
For.
Sue Sands. Schmierer.
Against.
Stannard.
For.
Stutely.
Against.
Vaughan Thomas.
For.
Viv Thomas. Worley.
Against?
Right. Yeah.
Against.
1, 2, 3. So, Lord Mayor, that's 22 votes in favour and 16 against.
Okay, thank you. So that is now carried over to Cabinet. We have now, the Constitution says that at 3 hours since the start of the meeting or at a convenient point before, unless the majority of members present vote to continue the meeting, we will adjourn immediately. So I need to get an indication whether members would like to have a vote on continuing the meeting in order to deal with the next item. It's a convenient point on or around 3 hours. So the 2 hour mark is dead on, the 2 hours or beyond, but the 3 hour is the Lord Mayor's discretion to pick a point nearby, and we're fairly close to that now. Councillor Stoddard.
So there's some concern here about the time of night and staff getting home, and also colleagues getting home, getting buses home, which may not be running. So I think actually we need to be thinking potentially about referring this motion to the March meeting.
Councillor Stewart.
Like the last one, I think this is another important motion, and we should take the time. This one of the highest turnouts the council has seen since I've been involved with it, and I think this is an opportunity to debate out another important motion, so I'd like to proceed, please.
I didn't quite catch the last few words there.
I would like to proceed with the motion if possible.
So I need a seconder for the procedural motion to continue the meeting. Councillor Osborne's hand went up first. So we now have a proposer and a seconder to continue the meeting. As it's a procedural meeting, there's no discussion on this. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour of continuing the meeting? All those against? So we are against continuing the meeting, in which case that concludes our business for this evening. Thank you all very much, everyone.